All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. The war on the music of Stevie Ray Vaughan, which won't be heard on a radio station near you, most likely, unless you have, like, I don't know, Sirius satellite radio or something. And I don't have it. A lot of people say, you ought to get that. And I'm like, no, I agree with Tom Petty. And he said, why should I have to pay for what I used to get for free? And he said that in the song The Last DJ, which I think was very prophetic. Stevie Ray Vaughan, when I got into the radio business, I went from college radio, listening to like Echo and the Bunnymen and The Cure and early U2 records and things like that, but even more obscure things like Shriek Back. Go look that up if you want to, hear something crazy. But that was the norm in college radio. But I got this job at a mainstream rock station. And when I got there, they were playing a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And Stevie Ray Vaughan, when he came out with an album, it was a big deal. The programmers not only just embraced the music, but it was the listeners who used to call and say, hey, man, best guitar player in the world, just keep playing Stevie Ray Vaughan. And if you hadn't played Stevie Ray in a couple of hours, the phones would ring and they'd want some Stevie Ray Vaughan. And this happened the entire time I worked there, because Stevie Ray got better and better as time went on. But it's a mainstream rock format, which doesn't exist anymore. It does. Some people call it active rock, but you're not going to hear any blues guitar players on a mainstream rock station. You're not going to hear, for instance, if you wanted a contemporary, you're not going to hear Joe Bonamassa or Kenny Wayne Shepherd, right, on a mainstream rock station. People in the 80s who lived through the 80s, right, you understand a couple of things were happening. Yes, there was purple hair. Yes, it was Howard Jones, Thomas Dolby, although that trend seemed to decline quickly once the late 80s came around and those types of bands and solo artists weren't as popular. They kind of hit their stride probably 1985, 1986. But then after that, there were a lot of traditional things happening. Guns N' Roses hits the scene, and nobody's going to accuse them of being a new wave band, all right? Rooted in a lot of blues and roots music, but louder, right? But you had a ton of blues artists, including Gary Moore, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, who had gone through a rebirth, Robert Cray, who, I mention here, even though never mind. I don't want to get into the whole Robert Cray thing right now. But these were all of the artists, in addition to guys like Johnny Winter and other people who were launching Buddy Guy. They were relaunching things that maybe 10 years ago nobody would have paid attention to. The production value was much better, making blues music much more accessible. And there were rockers, and then there were slower kind of torch blues type things on most of these albums. Stevie Ray Vaughan had this giddy up and go kind of playing style, which I think was very unique to him. And a lot of people underestimate how important he was and how amazing he was as a guitarist. And because his music really is nowhere to be heard on radio stations anymore, I think people are losing maybe how important he was. And you could say the same thing about Jimi Hendrix. His music pretty much gone. I don't know, the oldies stations maybe might play Foxy Lady or something, but I don't even hear like All Along the Watchtower or Purple Haze, which I think would be his signature song. Rock and roll history is fading. And Stevie Ray Vaughan, I mean, he lasted less time than a guy like Hendrix did on the radio, because when the grunge apocalypse hit, all of those current blues players were told to pound sand. They would continue to make music. In the case of Stevie Ray Vaughan, a helicopter shortened his life, obviously, and he was still on an upward climb when all that happened. That's why it was super tragic, because he was sort of the torch-bearing contemporary new player on the scene who everybody seemed to love, and he was accessible. He originally was discovered by David Bowie, which is just weird to me, but that's how that all happened. And he was featured on the Let's Dance album of all things, which again doesn't seem to make sense. But then there's this association he had with Nile Rodgers over the years, probably because of the Let's Dance album. And Nile would produce Stevie Ray Vaughan later on. And then the Vaughan Brothers album, which was fantastic, with his amazing brother, who doesn't get all that much ink at all. That's Jimmy Vaughan, by the way, who was in the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And so you had some friendly competition there. You had two boys from Texas sort of battling it out on the scene. And Jimmy Vaughan is no slouch. He is a really skillful guitarist. He has his own touch, his own style. And I really enjoy listening to his music almost as much as Stevie Ray Vaughan. But Stevie Ray Vaughan, where did he go? And why doesn't anyone do a rock station where all of these lost and found blues guitar players went? You know, where did they go? And why wouldn't it be smart to play all of that tired, old glam metal, heavy metal, Poison, Motley Crue, overplayed, and they consider that classic rock, right? Because I hear it all the time, like, and I don't deny that it's classic rock. If you're going to play Round and Round by Rat and you're going to say that's a classic rock song, then you should be playing TikTok by the Vaughan Brothers. You should be playing Crossfire by Stevie Ray Vaughan. I don't hear any of that music, zero. And, you know, I brought the old mainstream rock book out here, and I just wanted to read off some of the songs that Stevie used to have on the radio, back starting from 1983, moving into the mid-1990s. Pride and Joy, Voodoo Child, Cold Shot, awesome song, Look at Little Sister, Change It, Superstition, amazing version, Willie the Wimp, we used to play that all the time, and then Crossfire, which hit #1 on rock charts, not on top 40. Tightrope, another amazing song. The House is Rockin', everybody knows that song. Wall of Denial, TikTok, which did hit number 65 on the top 40 charts, but did top 10 on the rock charts. Telephone Song, another amazing rock tune that we played a lot. Good Texan, that's the Vaughan Brothers, fantastic. The Sky is Crying, Empty Arms, his version of Little Wing, which is kind of breathtaking. Shake for Me, and then I think posthumously here, Taxman, Beatles song. And I'm sure, I don't even remember his rendition of Taxman, but I'm sure it's insane. So again, I bring this up because, you know, there's a whole bunch of music that people in corporations, corporate boardrooms have decided that we don't need to hear anymore. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan, that's art at its finest. That's a man at the top of his game. He was cut down at the top of his craft. And typically when artists meet an unfair ending, radio tends to embrace those people. I mean, they won't stop playing Nirvana, will they? Right? But they've stopped with the Stevie Ray Vaughan. So anyway, I guess good quality blues rock doesn't fit any contemporary format today. So I guess you have to go buy satellite radio, or of course, make your own playlist. People tell me, Dave, just go to Spotify. And I do sometimes. Go to YouTube. I do. I go there. But it'd be nice to jump in the car or the SUV, right, and cruise around and hit a button and actually hear a Stevie Ray Vaughan song again. That would just be really cool. But I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. All right, so that's my video in honor of the man who's right behind me on the wall here, in case you were wondering if that was Stevie Ray. It is Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's kind of a montage of different images, but I guess they felt that if they were going to have somebody who is a guitar slinger as part of their wall art collection, that probably the best and most recognizable person based on their look and that cowboy hat would be Stevie Ray Vaughan. So anyway, it's just sad that he's not on the radio because he really should be. I mean, his work is right up there with the best guitar players that have ever lived.